But I am here tonight to tell you the truth. The truth is, America's not a democracy. The word democracy makes people feel safe. But the founders never trusted the masses because the truth is the masses are fucking stupid. Anyone who owns a live, laugh, love mug shouldn't have a say in how a country is run. People are a labor force that need a kind but firm hand. There are no nations. There's Apple, Exxon, and Berkshire Hathaway. Corporations are the real superpowers here. You should be able to operate without any regulation or restriction whatsoever. After all, you're billionaires. You are smart enough to know what's best. Bottom line, you support me, and that is what you'll get.
Hear, hear.
Okay, so long story short, I saw a Tesla at a McDonald's drive-thru a while back, and I thought there's something about this image that I just can't get past, and I have to do a video on this, but I didn't know exactly what. And then something started happening and the gears started to turn.
At least 15 people are dead, more than 30 injured after an Army veteran
to help plan his Cybertruck bomb. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
My heart goes out to you.
I don't do drip or money or fashion. I do art. For me, it's about art. That's it.
The United States of America really is a fascinating country. From its inception, the people who banded together to establish this country and its values and laws and government must have done so under heavy cognitive dissonance, because it was a country predicated on the virtue of freedom for everyone, except not really for everyone. They wanted freedom of and freedom from religion and freedom from a tyrannical and oppressive government. And while this country hardly looks anything like it did in the 1700s, some people are maybe realizing that the government / ruling class of uber wealthy people might not have their best interests in mind, and that things are probably headed towards the exact opposite of those visions of freedom. Humans hardly ever change. The technology, the ideas, the buildings, and the means of transportation do, but we don't. Whatever era or country or type of government it is, the worst parts of human nature will always make themselves apparent, and we end up seeing the same cyclical things happening, with some not so fun, not so surprising things added in. And some of the worst things from the country's origins continue to wreak havoc today. Namely, bigotry, racism, capitalism, greed, you know, the four horsemen. I spend a lot of time on the internet. Too much, I think. But I'm not the only one. Hi there, fellow time waster. And with all the time people spend on the internet, and really all the time they spend on social media, we're inundated with so much information all the time. And as much as we can stay informed, we can also be easily manipulated. Those with money and influence know that very well, and they use it to their advantage and to our detriment. Which brings me to the two guys who are on the thumbnail of this video and are currently doing a madness, to say the least. In one corner, like something straight out of a comic book, we've got the richest man in the world, is that right? Who bought one of the most widely used social media apps, formerly known as Twitter, so he can wreak havoc with censorship, misinformation, push certain narratives, and control others, and ultimately rule the world, probably. Or colonize Mars, whichever comes first. And in the other corner, we've got a felon, am I reading this right? A felon in office as President of the United States. I don't think I need to say any more than that, although I could. But anyway, together, they seem to be a power duo hell-bent on destroying the country. And on top of that, they've created a make-believe, probably illegal agency as well, through which they're cutting government programs and jobs and trying to end social security. It's a lot. And to be honest, it's so much that with each passing day and week, there's so much that goes on and develops that I can't even keep up, and I'm not writing all that stuff into the script. I'm just gonna go along with the rest of this video. Don't quote me on any of this though. I'm not an authority on anything. I am an artist. Anyway, let me continue to talk about politics real quick. So now we're here on a fast track to very scary times, it seems. Again, to say the least. But how did we get here? How did we get to this place in history where people are able to be misled to vote for people who seem to be working against their very interests and their future? Well, to be honest, that's nothing new. We've been doing that a long time. Republican, Democrat, whatever. But this is next level. In my opinion, whatever that's worth, here are some of the apparent contributing factors, some recent ones anyway. The war in Ukraine, the war/genocide in Palestine, the not so subtle rise of anti-intellectualism and conservative and Christian rhetoric in the country, preaching Christian family values and at the same time championing those who trample and spit on family values and decency with their abusive, immoral, degenerate, and criminal behavior. The complete loss of faith in the Democratic Party and democracy as a whole, really, not to mention Trump successfully riling people up again to hate the others with whatever lies and rumors he can cook up and spread. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. And I do try to put myself in other people's shoes to an extent, to understand how and why they do the things they do. But looking at everything from the top down, it's all bad. The super rich and powerful want to stay rich and powerful. Well, actually, they want to be even richer and even more powerful. And they will do and have done whatever it takes to achieve that. And that includes robbing the rest of the population blind, keeping them docile, distracted, and laboring, poisoning them, and killing them. And at the bottom, we're too distracted, divided, and overworked, really, to do anything about it. Some are aware, some are not. Some get tricked into believing in figures like Trump and Musk and hand them even more power so that they can get to work on destroying people's livelihoods and engorging themselves and their friends. And some are part of the propaganda machine.
Damn, that's crazy. What?
I'm not a political scientist, or any kind of scientist actually, and most of us aren't. But you don't need to be to have your eyes open and to know right from wrong. And there's obviously a lot that goes into running a country. But it seems like some Americans are realizing and voicing that the way we live and the way this country operates leave a lot to be desired. And in true American fashion, all of this is kind of happening through weird avenues, or because of weird reasons. So for the longest, I remember hearing TikTok being labeled Chinese spyware, and Trump, among others, but I heard a lot from Trump, calling for it to be banned, making a lot of noise, etc., etc. He talks and tweets a lot. Then we got to that hilarious congressional hearing, which again seemed like something out of a TV show or something. A lot seems to be like that these days. And fast forward to when it was apparent that TikTok was going to be shut down for real after they voted to ban it, millions of TikTok users flooded to the Chinese version of the app. Funny that. Thousands of people were engaging in discourse about free speech, control, censorship, and manipulation. People also pointed out that the reasons for wanting to ban TikTok were because of greed, actually, and again, capitalism. It's about being able to profit off of this lucrative platform. And it's about Meta and its shareholders and them not wanting the competition unless they can profit from it as well. And then, in what seemed like a publicity stunt, TikTok was quickly restored on a temporary status while they try to work out a deal. And Trump can look like the hero who saved TikTok. Even though he was one of the main people calling for the ban on TikTok for supposed national security reasons. Yeah, bro, this is so weird. The TikTok saga, as I'm calling it, is just one of the weird things that made me think people are waking up to the realities that we were always facing, but are more apparent as late-stage capitalism ramps up. Another one is the Luigi situation. And the fact that I don't even have to say anything more than the Luigi situation speaks to the magnitude of that spectacle and the weight of the response and reaction from the public. People are tired. People are tired of being tired and feeling like they're getting nowhere fast. Sure, we are all masters of our own destiny to an extent, but the way those in power choose to exert that power can have a crushing effect on us. It does have a crushing effect on us. So let's finally talk about this Tesla at the McDonald's drive-thru. As I looked at this Tesla at the McDonald's drive-thru, so many things went through my mind at once. It was like looking through a kaleidoscope. I knew there was something there. I could hardly breathe, my senses sharpened with excitement. I thought, is this how it feels to chew 5 gum?
Stimulate your senses.
Anyway, so as all these events happened and as I watched them happen, as I learned more about them, I still don't know anything, to be honest, but I started to piece it together. This picture in front of me, this Tesla at the McDonald's, this is the new America. Let me explain.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. All right. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Wait.
I don't own a Tesla, but I know that to own a Tesla, you've got to have a good amount of money. To have a good amount of money, you need a good source of income, or a few good sources of income. If you have a few good sources of income, you're probably a smart, competent person. Or at least you've made some smart choices. And I don't mean to dump on this person and their Tesla at the McDonald's drive-thru. But to be at the McDonald's drive-thru, you've made at least one bad decision that day. Because you're at the McDonald's drive-thru. This is a greater symptom of America and the West and capitalism. And it applies to someone in a Mercedes, BMW, or whatever expensive car who's at the McDonald's drive-thru. But it's a sad reality that someone who has the means to afford a Tesla could buy said Tesla, but still have to, or choose to, put into their body the poison that they are serving up at a McDonald's. I don't think anyone needs a Tesla. It's not a necessity, but you need to eat healthy food though. We need to take care of our bodies and our health. But here we are, all of us working just to make ends meet. Well, not all of us. Some of you are watching this and you're like, I'm fine. But anyway, a lot of us working just to make ends meet, and a lot of us misinformed on how to take care of ourselves. A lot of us are unable to take care of ourselves. Not properly anyway. Either because we're too busy running the race, or simply because we cannot afford to eat properly, and then we can't afford to help or heal ourselves when we're sick. So as I looked at this Tesla at the McDonald's drive-thru, I was reminded, of course, of the socio-political landscape we're in, where a lot of people have become this caricature of consumerism. They're big consumers of certain brands, idolizing certain billionaires and millionaires, and yet they're feeding themselves with empty calories and, quite frankly, with poison and propaganda from those who they think are serving them, but they're not. And watching these politicians, these people in the media, mainstream or not, who are part of the propaganda machine, I wonder, and it's hard to tell sometimes, whether they really believe the stuff they're peddling, or they're just stoking flames because they know that rage is what sells. Or maybe they're just hateful and they don't care. Who knows? And I'm not naive enough to think that there's a good and bad side when it comes to the two dominant political parties right now and their respective propaganda machines. And it's not like our media is not already heavily manipulated and doctored. For sure, there's craziness and corruption and hypocrisy in whichever camp that people choose to base their identities off of. But I gotta admit, these right-wing religious nuts are a special breed, and it's jarring watching them. Oh, and even better, when those who are spewing hateful rhetoric behind the veil of godliness and Christianity are then faced with actual, merciful, empathetic, loving messages that reflect the sentiments of their supposed savior, they respond with even more vitriol. They twist themselves and their holy texts to reveal what they actually think, that Jesus, God, Yahweh, or whoever else they would call upon, is actually on the side of the merciless, the immoral, the greedy, and would implore you to not commit the sin of empathy. Remember, kids, don't commit the sin of empathy. Do not extend goodwill and generosity unto others, but rather imitate the billionaires and stock up and use up all the resources that you can. Use people to gain more and let everyone else fend for themselves.
That's a great idea. I'm with that.
as scary and uncertain as things may seem, what are we going to do about it? Yes, you and me. What are we going to do about it? Well, that's the thing. I don't really know. But like I said at the start, I'm not an authority on anything. And this is definitely not a channel about activism or politics or any of that. I'm just kind of observing and reacting to the world while it lasts. So I'm just gonna keep making videos about different topics and hope that more people will keep watching. So I guess to that end, you can do your part and leave a like and subscribe. So I don't really have an insightful parting message to pass on to you, except this one piece of advice. Don't be the person in a Tesla at a McDonald's drive-thru. For a lot of reasons, but mainly because someone you don't know will talk about you on the internet as a metaphor for a crisis in America. Thank you so much for watching. If you got this far, you're a real one. And if you enjoyed, like I said just a few seconds ago, leave a like and subscribe. That would help me out a lot. And if you didn't, leave a comment saying why. I don't know. Do whatever you want. And I'll see you on the next one.